How's it going, folks? I hope we're all keeping well. So today's lesson, we're continuing on energy sources part 2, and today we're going to focus in on acid rain. Okay, what causes acid rain? What is acid rain? And what are the impacts of acid rain? And maybe some solutions to try and stop acid rain. Okay, so first of all, what is acid rain? Well, acid rain is basically rain that's a bit acidic. Okay, and if rain's a bit acidic, this is obviously a bad thing. What can this do? Well, if rain's acidic, it can erode stone, it can erode buildings, it can damage wildlife, it can damage trees, and it can pollute lakes. Okay? And acid rain is caused by global warming. Okay? So, for example, here we have a factory, okay, on the side of a river. Now, what's the factory giving off? The factory is giving off carbon emissions, okay? So gases such as carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxide, and sulfur oxide, okay? These float up from the chimneys into the atmosphere, okay? Now what happens to these gases? Sometimes these gases can get caught by wind, okay? And these gases can be caught and carried by the wind, okay? And what happens then, the gases can come in contact with clouds. And when they come in contact with clouds, they can dissolve in rainwater. And when they dissolve in rainwater, they can form acid rain, okay? And acid rain, like acid rain is, you know, it happens quite a lot, okay? Now, it's not that, like, you know, it's not dangerous in that if you walk outside during rain that's a bit acidic, you're not gonna feel it, you're not gonna be hurt or burnt by it. But over the course of like 100 years, okay, you would see the effects of acid rain on, say, certain types of stone like limestone, okay? Because the weak carbonic acid would react to the limestone and start to break it down, okay? And as you've already said, acid rain can kill plant life, pollute rivers, streams, and erode stonework. Okay, so let's look a bit more in detail at the effects of acid rain. Well, acid rain affects forests, okay? So this is the first thing that's affected by acid rain. So acid rain stunts the growth of trees. So that basically means acid rain will stop the growth of trees, okay? And it also means leaves can become discolored and can drop off, okay? So for example, if you look here, here's a forest that's been affected by acid rain. What do you notice about it? Well, it's very obvious that the trees don't really have any leaves or many branches for that matter. They're also a funny colour. They're kind of like grey, white in colour, the trees themselves, okay? And that's because of acid rain. Alright, again, harmful effect of acid rain. That's destroying not only a nice forest, but that forest is home to lots of wildlife and maybe produces some kind of food as well. So it's a really, really big negative impact on a forest is acid rain, okay? The effects of acid rain. Again, guys, would this damage happen overnight? No, this damage could happen over the course of years, decades, maybe even a century, okay? So it's not like an overnight thing. Okay, it takes a lot of acid rain to do this kind of damage. Okay, so apart from forests, a second natural thing that acid rain can have an effect on is soil. Okay, and why is soil important for us? Well, we really rely on soil, you know, to grow plants, to grow food, to use for farming, to put cattle and sheep on. So it's really, really important to us, okay? And acid rain, naturally enough, has a negative impact on soil. So acid rain makes soil more acidic, okay? So it basically means the soil's got a higher acid content. And this causes leaching. Remember, guys, what is leaching? Well, we would have covered leaching a few weeks ago before the Easter break. Leaching is when nutrients get washed out of the soil, okay? So acid rain literally washes nutrients out of the soil, okay? And as a result, soils become infertile. What does infertile mean? Infertile means they're unable to grow anything in them, okay? For example, here is really hot, dry soil that's been affected by acid rain as well. Okay, so you can see it's all kind of cracked. It doesn't, you know, there's no vegetation growing there really. So you know that's the impact that acid rain can have on soil. Okay, it can make it infertile and acidic. Okay, now, how else can acid rain affect us or affect nature or affect man-made things? Well, it can affect water. It can affect fresh waters. And when I say fresh waters, I mean lakes. Okay, so it can basically pollute lakes. And when it pollutes lake, what does it do? It damages fish life and marine life, and as well as plants, okay? For example, in Scandinavia, so up there, you know, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, thousands of their lakes are known as dead lakes. Why are they known as dead lakes? Because the dead lakes have been basically, acid rain has rained into the lakes and damaged them and caused them to, you know, damage wildlife and caused them to be kind of impossible places for wildlife, plants and fish to live in. Okay, and that's a result of acid rain. Okay, the final thing acid rain can affect our buildings. Okay. And again, guys, this takes a long time. For example, if there's acid rain one day, your house is not going to melt down or anything. Okay, certain types of rock and certain types of stone are only affected by acid rain, but it's still the effects can be seen over the spaces of decades or even centuries. So acid rain damages buildings, especially those made of limestone and marble. Okay, for example, here we have a statue. Okay, this is the statue in 1940, and this is the statue today. What do you notice? Well, the poor person in the statue, their face has melted off or has eroded off because of continuous years of acid rain, and also you can see some of the detail in what they're wearing has kind of disappeared as well. Okay, and guys, that's over decades, if not a century. That's over a long time. Okay, and this can affect tourism, such because historical buildings can be damaged, and these are primary tourist attractions. Okay, so for example, if you would like for example, what's a good example? The Statue of Liberty in New York. Okay, if that's not properly maintained, that could be damaged by acid rain, and this would affect obviously tourism. Tourists wouldn't be bothered going to see a Statue of Liberty that was half melted. Okay, so folks, those are some of the effects of acid rain. Okay, now acid rain is our fault. The reason why acid rain is there is the fault of humans, okay? It's the fault of humans and humans producing too much CO2 and leaving behind a big carbon footprint. But can we as humans do anything to stop acid rain? Are there any solutions to acid rain? Yes, absolutely, okay? The first thing we can do is try and make cars more energy efficient, or for example, don't use them as much at all. Okay, so for example here we have an electric car. You see more and more electric cars on the road, particularly in cities, and I suppose the idea here is that these cars don't really use to create as much CO2 as other cars. Okay, we can try and use public transport more. Okay, so sometimes this is not always possible. If you live in the countryside, like I live in the countryside and there's not a bus route or a train station beside my house, so I can't really use public transport. But for some people who live in urban areas and towns and cities, there's buses, there's trains, there's like the Luas, things like that. And again, this really reduces the impact of CO2. It really reduces the carbon footprint emission by using public transport as opposed to driving. Okay, we can try and use more clean renewable energy sources such as solar power and wind turbines. Okay, so here we have some wind turbines. Solar power. I think a lot of the houses around Dunshaughlin, the newer houses, have solar panels on them, and that's not just in the Dunshaughlin, that's around the whole country. A lot of houses, a lot of new houses have to have solar panels on them to be more energy efficient. Okay. What else can we do? We can try and encourage people to reduce the amount of energy they use in their homes and businesses to help reduce emissions. Okay, what does that mean, guys? That means when you're finished using something, when you're finished using the computer, the PlayStation, the television, turn it off, unplug it. When you leave a room, make sure you turn off the light in that room. Don't be leaving the immersion on for too long. If you're using water, don't waste water, things like that. So there's lots of everyday things humans can do, you can do or I can do to help reduce our emissions. Okay, for example, if you're going to meet your friend or going down to town, walk or cycle, don't be getting the lift all the time. Do you know? So things like that, there's small little everyday things that we can do that can help contribute. Okay, and hopefully, as we can see here on our little scales, these solutions, so cleaner fuels, public transport, renewable energy, will outweigh and eventually get rid of the effects of acid rain, such as destroying forests, save our buildings, and save our soil and our fish and wildlife. Okay, folks, thanks so much for watching. Again, please look at the final slide. There's some instructions on what to do next. Okay.